Welcome to a very special Sunday edition of our daily show, The Morning Roundup.
Yeah, we're doing something a little different today.
Usually we're tackling the daily news, but on Sundays, we've decided to take a completely different path. We are going to do a chapter-by-chapter reading of the Bible.
Right, starting at the very beginning.
Exactly. This is the first of these special Sunday deep dives. And so imagine walking into an empty warehouse. No shape to it, no definition, just a vast, dark, echoing emptiness.
Right.
And you are standing there right before a master architect walks in, turns on a flashlight, and begins this massive, incredibly methodical construction project.
That's quite a visual.
Yeah, and that is the exact scene set in the opening lines of one of the most famous pieces of ancient literature in human history. I'm talking about the first chapter of Genesis. Today, we are taking you on a journey through the blueprints of this text.
And we should probably establish our parameters for this deep dive right up front for you guys.
Definitely.
We are looking at this foundational text purely as ancient literature and, source material. The mission here is to understand its underlying structure, its narrative rhythm, and the internal logic the ancient author used.
Right, tracing that transition from pure, formless chaos to a highly structured, inhabited world.
Exactly. We are not taking any theological or political sides here. We're just impartially unpacking the cosmology and the sequence exactly as they're written on the page.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that opening imagery of the empty warehouse is actually a very modern way of looking at what the text describes as without form and void.
Yeah.
The original text paints a picture of darkness over the face of the deep and the spirit hovering over the waters. It's the ultimate blank slate, but a deeply chaotic one.
Right. For an ancient reader, an unstructured dark ocean wasn't just empty space. It represented terrifying, untamable chaos.
Wow.
To understand the progression of the narrative, you really have to understand that ancient mindset. Modern people look at a blank space and think about material properties, right? Atoms, molecules, physical matter.
Think about the stuff it's made of.
But ancient Near Eastern cosmology looked at existence through the lens of function and order. If something didn't have a specific role or function within a system, it effectively didn't exist in a meaningful way.
It was just chaos.
Precisely. So the narrative begins the act of creation, not by manufacturing matter out of nothingness, but by taming that existing chaos through separation. You can't put anything into a space until you define the space and establish its boundaries.
Okay, so that brings up a massive stumbling block I want to push back on right away, because this trips up anyone trying to read this text as like a strict chronological timeline of material creation.
Oh, absolutely.
Day 1 and Day 2 are entirely about establishing boundaries. On Day 1, a voice speaks into the darkness and says, "Let there be light." The text says the light is separated from the darkness, calling the light day and the darkness night.
Right, the first act of separation.
But wait, if you read ahead to Day 4, that is when the physical sun and the stars are actually placed in the sky. So if we are reading a logical blueprint, how do we have day and night, evening and morning, without a sun?
Yeah, to our modern, scientifically wired brains, that sequence seems entirely backward. We immediately associate the physical object, like a burning ball of gas, as the definitive source of the light.
Right, you need a lamp to have light.
But remember that ancient ontology of function we just talked about. The primary focus of these early days in the text isn't on the physical objects themselves.
It's not.
No, what's fascinating here is it's actually on establishing cosmic order. The text is laying down the fundamental laws of existence. On Day 1, by creating light and separating it from darkness into a rhythmic evening and morning, the architect is building the abstract framework of time.
Oh, I see. So Day 1 is setting up the conceptual framework of time, while Day 4 is installing the actual physical gears of the clock.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. Time has to exist as an operating principle before anything can function within it.
That makes so much sense.
And following that same logic on Day 2, an expanse or a firmament is created to separate the waters below from the waters above, calling this expanse heaven.
So another separation.
Right. To an ancient reader, this firmament was conceived as a solid dome holding back the chaotic cosmic waters. By separating the waters above from the waters below, the architect is building the framework of space.
Meaning they're establishing a vertical axis of up and down.
Exactly. Time and space are the absolute prerequisites. Nothing can live until those dimensions are secured.
Think about how you organize your own life. You don't just start throwing tasks onto a calendar randomly, right?
No, you go crazy.
You establish the time blocks first, the boundaries of your workday, your evening, your weekends. You do that before you figure out what specific meetings or events to put inside them.
That's a really good analogy.
The architect is drawing the grid lines on the blueprint before sketching the actual building.
And with the abstract coordinates of time and space locked in, those boundaries naturally create habitats. The narrative sequence logically shifts on days 3 and 4, from defining the cosmos to preparing the physical stage.
So we move from blueprints to actual rooms.
Yes. On day 3, we see another vital act of separation. The waters under the heavens are commanded to gather into one place called seas. And this gathering allows the dry land, the earth, to appear.
And as soon as the land is exposed, the text immediately populates it with vegetation. The earth is commanded to sprout plants yielding seed and fruit trees bearing fruit, each according to its kind. Notice that phrase, according to its kind. It's introducing the concept of categorized, self-replicating order.
It really is. The emergence of vegetation on day 3 is the culmination of the habitat building phase. But the system still needs a governing mechanism, which brings us to day 4.
Or the celestial bodies.
Exactly. God makes the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And the text assigns them a highly specific job description.
What's their job?
They are explicitly for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and to separate light from darkness.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There is this brilliant structural pattern in the text that we have to map out for you.
Oh, the symmetry. Yes.
Once you see it, the entire underlying logic of Genesis 1 clicks into place. Think of days 1 through 3 as the architect building the rooms of a house. And then days 4 through 6 are moving the furniture and tenants into those specific rooms. The symmetry is a perfect 3x3 grid.
It's beautifully designed.
On day 1, the architect builds the room of light and dark. On day 4, the architect installs the sun and moon into that exact room to govern it.
And you can keep following that literary symmetry.
Yeah.
On day 2, the room created is the expanse of the sky and the waters below.
Okay.
When we look at day 5, the text places the birds in the sky and the sea creatures in the waters below.
Wow, yeah.
On day 3, the room is the dry land filled with vegetation. And on day 6, the land animals and humanity move in to inhabit and eat from that very land. The author has crafted a stunning piece of literary architecture.
It's amazing. The text is not just a random inventory of things popping into existence. It is a highly choreographed, poetic sequence designed to convey intentionality.
Absolutely.
And beating like a drum throughout this whole structural phase is the phrase, "And God saw that it was good."
Yeah, and we need to decode what good means in this ancient context. When the text says it was good, it is not making a casual aesthetic judgment.
Like, it doesn't just mean pretty.
No, not at all. In the vocabulary of this narrative, goodness is intrinsically linked to order, structure, and purpose. The chaotic, formless void at the beginning wasn't morally evil. It was simply non-functional.
It's just a mess.
Exactly. But as everything is given a designated place, as boundaries are drawn, seasons established, and plants produce seed according to their kinds, it becomes good. Goodness means a system is functioning perfectly according to a harmonious design.
Okay, so with the habitats built, planted, illuminated, and declared good, the narrative accelerates dramatically.
It does.
We move from static, stationary environments to dynamic, moving, breathing life. Days 5 and 6 are where the system comes alive with swarms and flocks.
Yeah, the action really picks up here.
On day 5, the waters are commanded to literally swarm with swarms of living creatures, and birds are commanded to fly across the expanse. And here we hit a new mechanism in the text.
Which is the very first blessing.
Right? The fish and the birds are blessed and told to be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters and let birds multiply on the earth.
And it's important to note that a blessing in ancient literature is not merely a polite wish for success. It's actually an active endowment of power.
So it's like a transfer of authority.
Exactly. By blessing the creatures, the architect is delegating the power of continuation to the sister itself. The system is now designed to self-perpetuate within the boundaries that were established.
So the sun sets and rises, and we arrive at day 6, which is the undeniable heavy hitter of this sequence.
Oh, for sure.
The first half of day 6 follows the established formula. The earth is commanded to bring forth living creatures, livestock, creeping things, and beasts of the earth, all according to their kinds.
Right.
The ecosystem is fully stocked, the verdict of good is declared, and you might think the blueprint is finished, but it's not.
No, the narrative is about to reach its absolute pinnacle, and it signals this by breaking its own literary rules.
Let's dissect that, because the shift in the text is jarring. For 5.5 days, the language has relied on somewhat distant third-person commands, right?
Yeah. Let there be light. Let the waters swarm. Let the earth bring forth.
But suddenly, for the creation of humanity, the text pivots to this intimate, plural, first-person declaration. Let us make man in our image, after our
It's
likeness.
a huge shift.
Why the sudden linguistic shift? What is the mechanism behind moving from let the earth bring forth to let us make?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, in ancient Near Eastern literature, a shift to the first-person plural, often called the divine council or the royal plural, is a giant, flashing neon sign to the reader.
Indicating what?
Ultimate deliberation. It elevates the importance of the action about to take place. Throughout the first 5 days, everything was categorized by localized boundaries. Plants, fish, beasts were all made according to their kinds.
Right, they all fit into neat categories.
But humanity is entirely omitted from that categorization. Humans are not described as being made according to an earthly kind. The text uniquely frames them as bearing the image and likeness of the Creator.
I really want to dig into that term image, because centuries of philosophy have debated whether that means humans look like God, or have rational minds, or possess a soul.
Oh, people have argued about that forever.
Yeah, but what did that phrase mean to the original audience reading this text thousands of years ago?
We have to look at the ancient cultural context of the Imago Dei, the image of God. In the ancient world, kings and emperors could not physically be present in every corner of their vast empires.
Sure, they couldn't be everywhere at once.
So they would erect statues or monuments, literal images of themselves, in conquered territories or distant provinces. The image acted as a physical representative of the king's authority and presence.
Wow, okay.
When people saw the image, they were reminded of who ruled the territory and what laws governed it.
So bearing the image is less about physical resemblance and more about a vocation. The text is placing humans in the ecosystem not just as another mammal to take up space, but as the localized physical representatives of the architect.
To bear the image in this text is to act as the authorized proxy of the Creator within the created space. It is a functional role.
It's a massive responsibility.
It is. By stating humans are made in the Creator's image, male and female, the text elevates humanity to the climax of the architecture. They have a final puzzle piece that gives the entire structured system its focal point.
And because humanity is granted this incredible, unique representative status, the text immediately hands them a massive job description to match.
Right, they have work to do.
The architect doesn't just drop them into the finished warehouse and say, enjoy the scenery. They are given a strict mandate. God blesses humanity, just as the fish and birds were blessed with the power to self-perpetuate, saying, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth.
But then it goes further.
It does. The text adds an unprecedented layer. Humans are told to subdue the earth and to have dominion over the fish, the birds, the livestock, and every creeping thing.
That mandate is where we see the concept of the image bearer put into action.
Now, before we tackle the heavy weight of words like subdue and dominion, we have to look at a highly specific, often overlooked detail regarding the resources provided to execute this mandate.
Oh, the diet. Yes.
Yeah, the text explicitly says to humanity, I have given you every plant yielding seed and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And it goes even further.
What about the animals?
Right. God says to every beast, bird, and creeping thing, I have given every green plant for food. Consider the implications of that for a moment. In a brutal ancient world where survival was a daily, violent struggle, the text posits an entirely vegetarian original system.
Is a really profound literary choice. The author is describing a closed system of perfect provision.
It's wild to think about.
Think about how a standard food chain operates. It is inherently a zero-sum game. For the lion to survive, the lamb has to die. Life is sustained by the consumption of other life.
Someone always gets eaten.
Exactly. But the blueprint in Genesis 1 presents an initial state of existence, completely devoid of predation or violence.
The lions are eating the same green plants as the lambs. There's no hunting, no consuming of other living, breathing creatures.
This vegetarian mandate perfectly reinforces the text's definition of order. In this uncorrupted sequence, the harmony of the architecture is so complete that survival does not require the destruction of animal life.
The boundaries hold.
Yes. Everyone's needs are met by the vegetation brought forth on day 3. It establishes a baseline of nonviolence as the ideal state of the cosmos.
Keeping that picture of a perfectly balanced, non-violent ecosystem in mind really changes how we interpret the rest of the mandate. Specifically, how should you, the listener, interpret those forceful words like subdue and dominion?
This raises an important question for sure.
In our modern ears, words like that can sound aggressive. We hear dominion and we think of conquering, extracting, strip mining, or exploiting. But based strictly on the logic of the ancient blueprint we've just traced, how does dominion actually function?
Well, we have to define power within the context of the narrative sequence. If we read dominion as a license for reckless destruction or tyrannical rule, we are ignoring the preceding 6 days of text.
We'd be ignoring all that careful planning.
Exactly. Remember what we just watched the master architect do? Carefully organize a delicate, interconnected, interdependent system out of dark chaos. Everything was given boundaries. Everything was declared functionally good.
Right. The goodness is the order itself. If the system is working harmoniously, it is good.
Therefore, human dominion cannot logically mean the freedom to destroy that order.
That would be the opposite of good.
Right. Since humanity is made in the image of the Creator, functioning as the local representative of the architect who just spent 6 days organizing chaos into a flourishing ecosystem, their dominion is intrinsically linked to maintaining and stewarding that exact same order. To subdue and have dominion in Genesis 1 means to act as the authorized caretakers of the system. Their job is to ensure the earth remains good, protecting the boundaries and the flourishing of life that the Creator just established. They are commissioned as lead gardeners, not a demolition crew.
That fundamentally flips the script on how that word is normally utilized. The humans are mandated to mirror the architect's organizational care.
They are.
And with humanity installed as the stewards and the ecosystem fully functioning without violence, we get the final verdict on the sequence. Verse 31 says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good."
Notice the upgrade. Throughout the sequence, the individual pieces, the separated seas, the plants, the animals were just good.
Right, but now it's very good.
Yes. The completed, integrated whole, with humanity actively participating in its stewardship, achieves a new status. Very good is the ultimate seal of approval on the finished sequence. Evening and morning, the 6th day.
The transition is complete. The dark, formless, echoing warehouse has become a vibrant, illuminated, brilliantly managed home.
It really has.
Let's briefly recap the conceptual ground we've covered today. We traced a text that starts by confronting ancient fears of unstructured chaos. Step by step, we saw how the narrative builds a meticulously structured world by first laying down the abstract coordinates of time and space on days 1 and 2. We unpacked the poetic 3x3 architectural symmetry of the habitats being filled with tenants, light mapping to the sun, sky mapping to birds, land mapping to animals.
We also examined the recurring rhythm of the phrase, "it was good," learning that goodness in this text denotes functional order, structure, and purpose.
Right.
And finally, we explored the narrative's climax, the creation of humanity. Set apart by a shift in language, humans are uniquely framed as the image bearers of the Creator, given a mandate not to exploit, but to steward and maintain a delicate, nonviolent, perfectly provisioned ecosystem.
It is a breathtaking piece of ancient literary architecture, no matter how you approach it. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own as you step back into your day.
Something to think about.
We've seen how the Creator in this text brings order out of chaos, establishes boundaries, and calls that organized structure good. We've also seen that humans are uniquely made in that Creator's image, with a mandate to have dominion and stewardship.
Right.
So if we are the localized representatives of an architect who organizes chaos into goodness, does that imply that the ultimate human role described here is to continually organize the chaos in our own lives, our own communities, and our own spheres of influence into structured, flourishing goodness?
Are we adding to the chaos of the void? Or are we cultivating order and goodness within our own boundaries? It completely reframes how we view our daily responsibilities.
It really does, something to seriously think about. Thank you for joining us as we explored the intricate blueprints of Genesis 1. We love taking these journeys of discovery with you. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will see you on the next deep dive.